like some pictures when you're doing house projects, right? So, like Lee said, I can't remember when I started coming to these meetings. It was probably, well, it got to be about 5 years ago, before I found my place. When I moved to Midland, I started working here. I was just renting, trying to find a place to live. I wanted to try and find a duplex or something that I could live in one piece, rent one piece out, and was not having much luck. Had got on a couple of wholesaler lists here locally through guys that I met here at the meetings, and I was able, just to kind of keep my eye on stuff. But I had interest in owning some rental properties, and so I was looking both to see, do I see something come across that could be a rental property, as well as do I see something that I could do for a fix and flip or for myself, whatever it may be. So I saw one come up that was in Old Midland on a pretty good lot, and so I went and looked at it, and it had good bones, but it was rough. When I walked the house, the wholesaler had a couple of investors there at the same time. I counted 68 cats and dogs at the house. They had the master bedroom was only full of bird cages. There was no bed in the master, and the office was only full of bird cages. And the backyard had 7 industrial-sized pool heaters, about the size of your AC condenser. There was a building in the back that had pallets of chemical, hanging hot electrical wires. I mean, it was a piece of work, but in kind of a decent neighborhood or whatever. So I scrambled. I found a contractor to go with me, take a look at it. We looked at it, and I came up with, having not done any flips, what I thought my reno budget would be, which in the end came out to be, I budgeted about 50 grand for the flip. It ended up being about 150 grand, which, for those of you who have done flips, probably that doesn't surprise you any. But as I did that, and I'll kind of talk through some of this, I kind of changed what my approach was, which made me a little more comfortable with spending a little bit more on my reno budget. And so it was a big enough house that I didn't think I really wanted to, I wasn't sure if I wanted to rent it or to flip it. And so the first hurdle was trying to find financing. There were people that were living there. Obviously, they were trying to sell it to the wholesaler and move on from the property. But I had insurance come out and take a look at it, and I couldn't get a conventional loan because, well, I first tried to do a loan broker built for people doing fix and flips. And frankly, I can't remember which one it was at this point, but you submit your scope of work, you calculate your ARV, give them comps, they try and figure out, do we think it's worth it, whatever. And that one came in too low. I wasn't going to be able to get the budget I needed to do my reno stuff. So I went to a local lender here, and they wouldn't loan on it because it was in enough a state of disrepair. I couldn't get insurance for primary residence on the property. So I could only get basically insurance on the structure, but not actually insurance on it as a homestead. And so I was like, well, that's something to work with. So I went to a local bank here and got a local bank to give me a short-term balloon loan, basically a construction loan. And so they were able to structure it where it had funds for the purchase of the property, as well as they put funds for the reno and my costs. You had to pay a down payment on the full sum, and then you paid a monthly payment based on as you got reimbursed out of your renovation budget. And so closed on the house and got to work. I filled 7 roll-off dumpsters with demo and junk that they left at the house. Because, and that's part of the process, right? When you buy a home wholesale, you're affording someone the freedom to not go through the normal transactional process, and in return, they're getting a quicker turnover. You're hopefully getting a little bit better rate, but sometimes that also comes with extra headaches too, right? And so, yeah, tons of stuff to clean out and throw out. And I started working. The initial plan was to, the bathrooms were dated, redo the bathrooms, update the kitchen a little bit, keep kind of most of the structure. I had the original, this house was built in 48 and had the original fuse boxes. They had just like wired all these things on the post. And so I knew I had some electrical work to do. I knew I'd have to do some electrical stuff in the kitchen. And you know, that was kind of the scope. The windows were good, the brick was good, the roof looked good. So I was kind of thinking that was it. And started getting into the bathrooms, and the plumbing in the hall bath sink wasn't connected in the wall. It was just draining partially on the base plate. So I was like, well, that's a bad deal. I got into the master bath, and the old homes, they got small bathrooms, large rooms. The tub, where they had set the drain for the tub, was directly over a joist. They had just cut the joist, and so when you get the tub out, your floor joist is not connected, and so you're like, okay, well, this is gonna take a little bit more work. I found when I was digging up my water main to redo water, the water main had, I think they were 3-inch pipe, or 3/4-inch pipe back then. There was no top to the pipe. It was literally just a tray buried underground with dirt and things full of it. I have no idea how it was getting water pressure. But basically, I very quickly realized this is going to take a little bit more work than I thought. And so then I had to decide, do I want to do it kind of builder grade for a rental property? Do I want, at the time I didn't have a house, and so I was trying to figure out, would I want to stay here? Could I utilize this house some? And so I decided I wanted to, I waited as long as I could, did some of the improvements that would have been done either way, and then, well, I guess so probably what did it for me, at the time I was renting a condo, and I was working full time. I would work until about 5 or 5:30. I'd go to the house, I'd put on my work clothes, and I'd work until about 9. You go hit Home Depot before they close at 10, get some food, go back, work until about midnight, and then go home and go to sleep. Well, I came home one night at the condo I was renting, and the ceiling had caved in, and it was, I had water pouring down, all my electronics were on the floor, my condo that I was renting was flooding. And so I was like, okay, I now have 2 places that I'm paying for, and I can't live in either one. And so that probably helped me motivate me a little bit more to go ahead and look at maybe moving into that house. Thinking through multiple options. So your goal when you're doing a fix and flip is to try and improve the property's value and then capitalize on that gain. My estimation was basically, well, I can live in this house if I improve the value of the property. Even if I live in it, I'll still get the gain that you would get from a fix and flip. I'm just not getting the capital to roll into another project. That's usually the driver for people doing fix and flips. It's a quicker turn for building revenue rather than rental properties. And so, having not had a house, I went ahead and went that route and decided I'd go ahead and stay in the property. But I've continued to work on it. I did my balloon loan was only for 6 months, which again was, yeah, exactly. Yeah, looking back, I'm like, that was foolish. I should have done longer. I got it extended to 9 months. I did all the main work I needed within 9 months and moved in. When I refinanced to a traditional loan, I did a cash out to pay for. There were 5 trees literally adjacent to the house, touching the house, or they had cut the roof line back so it wasn't touching the tree. And you're like, you picked the wrong thing to cut. And but obviously had to pull all those out because they're going to eventually damage my foundation, damage stuff. So, you know, day, I don't know, 6 on the property, I'm cutting down 5 trees in Old Midland, and I'm like, ugh, I hate this. But it had to be done. Well, it had tore up the entire driveway, and so I used some of the refinance money to re-pour the driveway, do a few things that I had initially held off on doing, but when I decided I'll stay in it, I'll make it more of a kind of a higher end flip for whenever I move out. I'll go and spend that money.
You were doing all the work yourself?
So it was a combination. I had, over the course of the job, I think I had 16 subs. I was kind of the GC running the job. And then I had, I got bids from, I want to say it was like 84 contractors for stuff. Just because in Midland, that was like 2018, 2019 when I was doing all the work. I mean, activity was pretty hot. People, what you would find is guys who do lots of big jobs come to your house, they don't really want to do it, so they give you an astronomical price. And if you're dumb enough to not have checked, then they're like, well, I'll make a huge killing on this guy if he makes me do the work. And so got a lot of bids doing all the stuff. And what I would, I'm sure there's different quality of contractors and there's different levels of work that they do. The contractors I use, it's like, we'll hang drywall, you got to bring 38 sheets of 4x8 and screws and drop them off at the house, and then we'll show up and we'll do it. And so it was a lot of, I picked up all the equipment, ordered, put in orders and did everything for doors. We ended up 2 new bathrooms. I kept the kitchen cabinets, but redid the entire kitchen. Had to redo the HVAC, re-insulate, insulate the attic, all new interior, exterior doors. And I'd go down to the studs in most of the house, and then I had to paint the whole thing with Kills interior to kill all the odor from all the pets. And then sheetrock, texture, paint, new electrical from the pole into the house because it was too old, new water from the meter in, new sewer out. I was able to save, it had old hardwood floors from the 40s, which some of those old Midland houses do. And I wasn't sure with, dozens and dozens of animals crapping everywhere if it was going to be salvageable, but was able to save that. They had, the garage was a storage unit with like a chicken coop built on the front where the doors used to be, so I tore those out and built the garage into a garage, hung garage doors, re-poured the driveway, put in irrigation, landscape lighting, hydro mulched the yard. We had to build some stuff on the back, a little bit of framing, not much, thankfully not much framing, not much structural. And that's one thing, looking back, had I known I was going to do more of a larger scale kind of remodel, there's a few structural things I might have done differently as far as layout, but at the front end when I was sitting here thinking I wanted to spend 50 grand and kind of update the bathrooms and the fixtures and be good, I wasn't thinking about moving multiple whole walls at the time. And then with prices where they're at and stuff, was able to refinance again. I did that in the spring and got a decent chunk out to do some more stuff around the property, and didn't see the rates change, monthly rates change or anything. So I don't know if it's still, I think it's still pretty low. I know for people who've been around for a long time, it's very low compared to what it was like when my parents were first buying their homes. But so it was a real juggling process to try and manage all that stuff. I mean, that's the same is true for if you have rental properties you're trying to manage. I mean, I think one of the main skills is just kind of your ability to multitask and to keep lots of things going. For me, I'm an engineer by trade, and so I put stuff in spreadsheets to track stuff. So I had scope of works, I had all my bids and my contractor's contact information. I would try and track invoices to see kind of where I was coming in, like above or below, as I was adjusting throughout the course of the project. And one thing I will say that I thought of before I bought the property that helped me with all this was, it was in terrible shape, but it was in a good neighborhood. There were homes around this home that were multiples more than what this one was being sold for. And so I knew if I was going to have to do more work than what I was thinking I was going to need to do when I went into the project, I knew I wouldn't outrun the home values of the homes around me. That's one spot where I think you don't limit yourself or hurt yourself, but you're at a greater risk if if your initial reno budget on a remodel project puts you at the top end of the homes around you going into it, right? Because then you don't have any space to adjust your rental budget if you find new problems, you find new issues. Now all of a sudden, you've outpriced the homes around you, and you're gonna have a hard time recapturing that. Especially, there's a bunch of homes around me that people in 2019, leading to the beginning of 2020, were finishing on remodel jobs, and they've sat for sale for over a year because I don't know, but I assume they just put too much capital into it, and they can't afford to move the prices much. And knowing your market, Midland has a pretty robust housing market for even the 500 and under, but for sure like the 350 and under homes. Like those transactions have continued pretty much even in the midst of the downturn and some of those things. But the homes 500 to $1 million, the higher dollar homes, those transactions are slowing quite a bit and sitting around. And so also knowing what bracket of home is my fix and flip going to fall into, and understanding what's the transaction rate, how often are people buying and selling homes in this range before you jump in. There was one about a mile from where I live on a really nice street, a bunch of homes, and it had been sitting abandoned since the beginning of COVID. My wife and I would walk by it on our daily get out of the house walks during lockdown, right? And it never changed. The weeds were getting huge and stuff, and I was like, golly. And so one day, because I can't help myself, the back of the building was like, the home was knocked down. So I walked walked around, looked at the house, looked at what it looked like. Great big home. I think it would be, I talked to some contractors, it would rental budget of about $450,000 for that one. It would probably be a $1.2 million house when it's done. But then a couple homes started popping up and down on that same exact street. There were at 1.4 houses for between 1 and 1.6 million for sale on that street. And I was like, well, I shouldn't go buy a house trying to do a fix and flip on the street, because obviously there's other products sitting right here that aren't moving. And so that's something to think through as well. Okay, so let's see if this thing will work now.
What is the address of yours?
It is 1607 West Tennessee. It's over by the George Bush home. Yeah. All right, maybe this will. Okay, the TVs are off now. Or
How long did the process take, start to finish?
so from purchase to moving in took me 9 months. And then when I moved in, I had a handful of things to do still, but all of my major utilities were working. My HVAC had to be replaced the following year because it was shot. But I was able to live there and then it was probably another 6 to 9 months of pretty significant weekend projects while I was living at the house. But at that point, it's so much easier, right? I was living over here and driving to Old Midland every single day, and so when you're there on the property, that makes it a lot better. Okay, how do we?
Right.
Just turn it on.
Okay, well, my screen's down here, but it's up here now, so that'll work, maybe. Well, this is about par for my day today.
Zoom out, zoom in, maybe.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It shows up, there we go. I was it shows up here just fine. Then, okay, so it had all new, all old 2-wire electrical that needs to be redone, and so I did a very poor man's sketch of the house, where I wanted lights, where I wanted switches, what I wanted 3-ways, what I wanted not 3-ways.
What did you spend on electrical?
Electrical at the time, I think electrical ran me 18. I think water was all my water systems. I went PEX the whole way from the meter in. I think water was about 15 grand. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. So here's the so this is the kitchen. When I went to look at the house, you'll notice that red light is a lizard cage with the heat lamp plugged in over their washing machine, so you know they're not, or their dishwasher. There's a bird cage on that kitchen counter, so that gives you a good picture. This is the finished one. I kept the same cabinet structures. I unmounted them from the walls, moved them out of the house, did all the electrical, plumbing work, drywall, put them back, and just bought new faces and hung new faces on it, and then fixtures and painted it.
Amazing job.
Thank you, appreciate that. So here's one of the few structural things I did. I added a doorway right there that's into an office. It used to be, it looked like a patio or something like that. The wholesaler tried to pitch to me that it could be a 4th bedroom, but I believe, someone else may know, you have to have closets for anything to count as a bedroom.
Is it,
Yes?
according to Pat, my
That's-
business partner
it's not-
inspector, as long as it has 2 areas of recess to
Okay.
get out, and it is heated, it
Okay.
can be considered a bedroom.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah.
So it could have, I've got some pictures of that, but it wasn't really set up for that, so I
recently changed it.
put a doorway in there instead. So yeah, so here's the kitchen, pulled all the stuff out, took it down to the studs. They had pine, hardwood, it was oak in most of the house, but it was pine in the kitchen. And I grew up in Midland, Midland's got hard water, I didn't like the idea of keeping hardwood in the kitchen, so I pulled it all the way down and went back with OSB and then vinyl flooring in the kitchen area. And so that looks like tile, but it's vinyl flooring in there. And then got it painted. You know, found the house was fortunate to have good windows as well, which helped.
So that was pine flooring or pine cabinets?
It was pine flooring. The hardwood floor was pine, not oak, in just the kitchen section and in part of the office section. So I found a hardwood floor restoration guy. He had some strips of oak and floor matched in my office, and then I just went back with subfloor decking and vinyl flooring in the kitchen, mudroom, laundry room, because I wanted to kind of extra water protection.
There wasn't any way for you just to refinish that pine?
I could have, I think I could have, yeah. It had, there were some spots where there was a lot of erosion, and so I was worried I wasn't gonna have enough plank left maybe. But it might have been possible. I went ahead and went for it mostly because I wanted to get something else underneath the water fixtures in the kitchen.
Okay.
What did you end up spending on the kitchen?
Let's see, kitchen by itself would have been, I did so much stuff whole home wise, it's hard to kind of think through what I did on that.
Do you live in it right now?
I do.
So you probably went above and beyond, because you're gonna live in it.
There were a few things at the very end that I think I did go a little bit more on probably, but a lot of it, because in my head, I bought this house before I got married too, so my plans then were somewhat different than maybe what I can execute in my plans now. But I was kind of thinking, I'll keep it for the minimum 2 years so you can adjust how your gains are taxed, but then look for another house and do it again. So I wanted to be nice enough to capitalize on a fix and flip, but I wasn't necessarily trying to just go crazy. Like for instance, all the lighting, they had to rewire everything, put lights. I had them put can lights or light fixtures, both cans and light fixtures in every room. But I had the electricians hang just the normal lights and then give me a switch leg up to a box in the attic for all the other rooms. And then I went with the buddy and bought 18 or 22 can lights or whatever and went and just installed them, wired them myself. I had the electricians do the hard part. So I did a lot of kind of bartering with all of my subs to figure out like, hey, will you do like this percentage of the work and then leave me these things and then I'll knock out this stuff on mine to try and get some savings. And so on that, it just depends on knowing where's your time best spent, right? I'm working on another project. There's a building in the back of this property that I'm turning into like some offices, flex space or whatever, but I knocked the roof off of that building. It was cinder block, so it was nothing but wall and slab, and blocked it up taller. I built and raftered and re-roofed the whole thing. I set windows in it. I'm framing it, doing all that stuff. But I was trying to build some gates for my house. It took, with a friend welding, we spent several weekends, only got one gate done. Well, it took me 3 weekends to frame, roof, and deck the whole house, that back apartment thing. And so I was like, my time's not well spent trying to weld this thing, so I'm spending all my time doing that stuff. So that's one, is trying to learn for me, I can do a lot of the construction stuff, but the stuff that's more skilled, not necessarily skilled, but like nuanced, texture, things that people are gonna see. Detail stuff, I'm more inclined to sub that stuff out. I did do all the painting except for the cabinetry in the whole house though. I did a lot of that stuff. So, yeah, that's the dining room when I bought it, and then with the finished floors, yeah, same thing. That right there is a ferret cage. They generally they owned a pet store. It was like, I don't know, 6 or 8 blocks, kind of right from the Chick-fil-A. You actually can still see it. It says it's a purple brick building right there when you drive by Andrews Highway. Went out of business. They just took all the animals to the house, and I have no idea how long they lived there. I found via Google Earth, I found out that they also had an above ground pool in the backyard. It wasn't there when I went there, but I later found out that the neighbors had reported to the city because it smelled so bad because they didn't do anything with it, so they had to tear the above ground pool out. So when I showed up, the neighbors were like, would you like Gatorade? Would you like anything? They're like, yeah, here's some cookies, here's a granola bar, you keep working, like whatever. So, already a lot of goodwill in the neighborhood, or the street.
That's a
So,
good thing.
was that?
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's super helpful. So here's the office with the bird cages. So I think it had board and batten roof. I think it was exterior. You can see the size of the windows there. And so this one we took all the way down to the studs. It had, it used to have a doorway there, which also makes me think it was a porch. And so I had to put my doorway, I didn't want to reframe all of that stuff, so I set my door adjacent to it. But then you have a clear walkway kind of all the way through the house, which is nice. You don't have to walk through the living room. So there's the office with the floors done. The little bit of framing I did, the master and the bedroom behind it both had these Jack and Jill closets, and they backed up to each other. And so we framed out a closet in this second bedroom, and then I went into the master closet and knocked out all those walls to make a little bit bigger master closet. It's still pretty small, but it's considerably better than what we were looking at when we started. Here's the master bath.
I like those mirrors.
So thank you. Yeah, it was rough. They had, I don't know if I have a picture. I think I got rid of it.
Where'd you get those at?
What's that?
Where'd you get those mirrors at?
Amazon. I got. Was that?
How much you buy them?
I think they were about 300 each.
You can buy them from Alibaba.
Yeah.
I buy them from my flips. Like they cost me about like 140, 150.
Yeah.
Good quality though?
Huh?
Good quality?
It's the same.
It's the same
You're
thing?
just cutting out the middleman.
Huh.
They all come from China.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. And there's some stuff like sourcing and some things like that. Like I would probably do different. I got a handful of stuff from, a lot of stuff honestly just came off of Amazon, hardware, fixtures, and things like that. They had a microwave plugged in on the floor right here, so you can heat up your Hot Pocket while you're in the bathroom. I don't know. But yeah, so then, but like all that fixtures was Amazon, Home Depot, or I made the shelves. This is the hall bath layout. A lot of this stuff, see, layout stayed the same. I didn't do too much massive changes on that stuff. Here's the laundry. This was probably the roughest. You can see those original fuse boxes. That window didn't close. There was vines growing in the window into the house, drywall. They had a power strip stapled to the wall next to the washer dump plumbing. It was like, that's a terrible call. And it was actually exterior space. You stepped out of the house into kind of a exterior laundry, but it was enclosed. And so where the lights coming in here, there was a doorway, but that wall wasn't fixed to the ground. So we knocked that wall out. We framed the laundry room up. We cut the doorways higher, framed it all in, poured a curb. I'm digging up my water main right there, and then enclosed it, dropped a vent and a light and stuff. So it's true interior space now, going from your kitchen to a little mudroom area into that back laundry space.
You did a good job, man.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, this is the garage with the. So you can tell like someone had some handy skills, sort of, but they didn't have any execution. They wouldn't finish it. They wouldn't whatever, you know. So someone had thought through, let me do some of this, but they never sided the exterior of those doors, so they were rotten. That was like the chicken coop thing right there. So I knocked them all out, and then I came and got garage doors hung. And at the time, so my garage door vendor ended up being a guy coming out of Guyman, Oklahoma, because he was actually cheaper, even with travel, than local guys here in Midland at the time. So part of why I was like, I'm just going to keep calling vendors. Like, it's a headache to call people, but a couple extra calls, you know, can save me $1,000 or something here or there.
Were they listed in Midland?
No, that was, I've got family in Oklahoma, and so I asked around and found a couple people to call up there too. This is the backyard, no grass because all the animals, you can see there's like a dog run attached to that building back there, and then the right's the current.
Is that stucco?
The back building?
Yeah.
No, that's all just block that's been painted. And they had like constructed some sort of lean-to structure thing on the side. There's another chicken coop. I guess they sold a lot of chickens. We had to knock all the posts out and there were quite a few things that were sat, some LVLs in, and I had about 4 inches of sag in my garage, so I had to get a bottle jack and lift that up. But it was just like there was one of those 6-wheel wheelchairs just sitting like in the middle of the yard, and you're like, just somebody need this? Like, where did the person go? Like, it's just, it was boggling how much stuff. So this is the outside, that laundry room right there with the vines and stuff growing in. And this part of the house, this end down here was what had given me the insurance problem. There was siding that had been pried off by the vines, and so it was not enclosed from the weather and stuff like that. They left me a hot tub to throw away, which is nice. Here's that shed thing, and man, I found boxes of VHS tape, some bowling balls, spare tires, a Christmas tree. You know, I will say, if you ever have stuff on any of your job sites you don't know what to do, just put it on Craigslist. You can list it. You can list it for free. You can even list it for something. You'd be surprised. That hot tub, which looks like horror movies, we moved and I washed it with the hose, and then I wiped it down with some stuff, and I listed it for $900. Someone came and bought it for $400 as is, and they carried it over my cinder block fence for me. And I was like, you could have said 0 and you're going to take it. I would have gone for it. So you never know. Like, or they left a whole bunch of scrap stuff. So I would just take pictures of stuff in the alley. Scrap tiles, come pick it up. Scrap, whatever, come pick it up. And, people are looking for projects too, and so they'll come and grab whatever. That's the old driveway. That's the tree stump from the one that lived in the driveway. The lady that lived there before the Cat family was an independent, wealthy lady. She had a Lincoln Continental. She parked it one day. It stopped working. Called Lincoln, said, "Send me another one." They just sent another car. That car sat for 15 years. The neighbor next door planted these row of hedges and they grew to that height because he didn't want to look at the car that sat in the driveway for that many years. And so when I showed up, that bisected the property line. There was some on his and some on mine. It's like, this is going to be a headache to take. So I went over. He was pretty old at that house next to me. I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I take this stuff out?" I said, "I'll put it in a flower bed, kind of like we had before, and I'll take care of it, but it's going to be hard for me if I only do like my half." And he initially was kind of against it, but he let me go for it. And so that's the new flower bed and stuff that that we put in right there. You know, a lot of, okay, so here's my water main. That was the water main to the house. Again, no idea how I had water pressure. There's your master beams underneath the tub. I don't know how they didn't just fall through the floor. Since there were only bird cages and no bed, I guess they probably didn't use that bathroom very often. And then a couple pictures kind of the floor going through that process. The biggest thing I think that was a challenge was always having to think through kind of what are all the different things I would like. What are the absolute have to do's? What are the things that would be kind of nice to do? And what are the like over the top plus things that would be fun to do? And then as the project progresses, understanding, hey, if I take this step, am I going to eliminate the ability to do some other things? So for instance, when I redid the driveway, I had done some research, found I could do landscape lighting on my own for $400 or whatever. I wanted some lights by the trees, but I was going to need to be able to get power underneath what was about to be a massive circle drive I was about to put back. So I had them run conduit for me underneath the sidewalk and the driveways and flag it. Even though it was like, it's months till I can get to this, but I know I need to make that decision now, otherwise I'm not going to try and, tunnel underneath a 20-foot driveway or whatever. And so that was probably the biggest challenge as I was going through the process, was trying to always keep track of what was going on and knowing, okay, this is later on my schedule, but I need to do something pertaining to that up here. That way I don't make more work for myself later. And so for me, yeah, just using the spreadsheets and kind of keeping track of what are the things I want to be doing help me kind of keep all those things in the air, I guess. So, yeah, so I live there now. It's I like the house. It's appreciated. So even though I spent more than I expected in my renovation budget, I'm still under on all-in costs with what the house has appraised for, and so would still make money if I sold and moved and treated it as a flip, which was kind of always my benchmark as I was doing something, was trying to think, if I'm going to spend more money on this, how much do I get extra equity in the property, and will it be worthwhile or not? And so, yeah, it's been a fun process. I got engaged and married during that process, and so I don't get to allocate as much time as I did as a single guy on that kind of stuff. But it's been fun. Everybody would ask me, "Hey, would you do this again?" I think expecting me to say absolutely not, and I'm like, "Yeah, I would." I enjoyed it, and so, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of really the whole process. What I had, happy to answer kind of questions what you guys had. It was a lot of adjusting kind of on the fly. I will say, like, lean on people who have done any of this stuff before. Other people that you meet here. I knew one or two guys that were remodelers and a home builder, and so I'd ask them sometimes for some tips or stuff like that. But yeah, sorry.
What was the square footage of this house?
So it was, I bought it and it was shown as like 1,900 square foot, but when I surveyed it, it's surveyed at 2,300. And I don't know, because the initial survey actually showed the same stuff. I think when the wholesaler sold it to me, I don't think he was including the laundry room space maybe or something. But even then, like, the math doesn't quite work out. I don't really understand, but I bought it on the assumption, doing my calculus.
The cat is always off anyways.
Do what?
The cat is always off.
Yeah, it is always off a little bit. But I mean, it was, that's a 400 or 500 square foot difference or whatever. It was like, this is not an extra couple inches on the walls. They did something different. So I bought it with my cost per square foot calculus at 1,900 square foot. And it now is being appraised and is treated as 2,300. So, extra bonus. Yeah.
So how much did you buy it from the wholesale, from the
The wholesaler, I bought it at 180. Yeah,
150?
yeah, more or less.
Did you get your appraised value lower to what you wanted at
Did I get my appraised value?
for the district?
So it didn't get, it's appraised at, so like when I refinanced, it hasn't, I'm still paying on basically the actual transaction costs.
For
not-
the district taxes, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so it's,
And
you
they're,
know,
they're
What
only
did it
allowed to raise
appraise
you
for?
so much
Huh?
per
What
year.
did it appraise for?
the last appraisal was 390. And then the building, there's the building in the back that you saw in some of those pictures. It's 650 square foot, and when I bought it, it had water, it had power, it had water hookups that I don't know when they were last used, and it had literally like a direct tap into the sewer main. So I wouldn't call it sewer, but it was there. So, and there was like, there was mattresses back there and stuff, so somebody had been there at one point. But the plan is to finish that to normal standards and have it, be an extra office or, I might look at doing, renting it out or something. That was a potential where it was like, well, you could treat it like a little Airbnb, and so even though you don't have a duplex to house hack, you kind of do. You're living in one, and you've got a smaller something that's giving you a little bit of income.
Yeah.
So I haven't navigated through all those waters yet. I know it's like I got to at least make it functional space, but I think that will help with the appraisal value. Obviously, when that thing gets finished out too, because a lot of the homes in that area all have those little back sheds, mother-in-law suites, kind of whatever, stuff like that.
Hey Ruben, I'm Peter Tan. Man, you did a fantastic job up there. That's a beautiful house.
Thank you.
Looks like a lot of time, a lot of effort. And you made a killing, man. It sounds like a 390, 180 in, and
60.
60 in.
Probably like 60 equity right now.
Yeah, probably so. Because let's see, the recent one I did a big cash out refi to pay for the rest of all the work on that back building. So I've got all the money out, but haven't realized the gain that I think I'll get from finishing out the back 650 square foot. So when you get that done, it'll be 300 square foot of space and a 4-3 property basically. So I'm putting a bathroom and stuff in that back one. So
You bought it for 290 or?
bought it for 180, and then I put like 150.
Oh, 150 in.
Yeah, 150 in. So it's probably, so then I just took 50 out. So I've got it basically right at the ARV. I've got 390 or so in the property now, but I've got 50 grand in cash to pay for all the work that I need to do on that back house. And I think that'll boost me more than 50 in equity when it's done.
Where is this property at?
Old Midland?
Oh yeah, it's
That'd be between Midland High and the hospital.
in the hospital, that's right. Yeah, it's right over by the George Bush home.
In my opinion, that's the best area.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and that's part of it. I was on, like I said, I was on several of those wholesaler lists and would see a lot of properties. And a lot of the properties, even if they've got a good price point and you feel like I've got margin for my remodel plus some extra fluff for all the things that are going to go wrong you don't expect, a lot of times that puts me with a nicer house than I want to be located in the area that it's located, right? And so that was the thing with this one was when I walked it, I saw the email, I went and walked it that day at lunch, I walked it again the following day with the contractor and then put an offer on it. the next day, because I knew it was like, it's a good area. It's like, even if, you know, and that was part, it's like, even if I don't like it, and I don't think it's gonna be a good layout for me, I can sell it in this area. I know I you know, have a fix and flip option as an exit. So, yeah, I would like to do another one at some point, but I gotta, the front house, I was subbing a lot of the stuff that I couldn't do for speed. I was, you know, on the balloon loan, all the other stuff. The back house, I'm trying to do a lot of it myself, partially to learn it, partially to save, you know, because I'd like to have done everything once. That way, in the future, as I'm working on houses, I can know when somebody's trying to pull one on me or not, because it's like, no, I've called in the crawl space and I've run the plumbing before. Like, I know what it should cost, or you know, it was 112 the day that I was in my hazmat suit in the attic running all those can lights for 3 hours. It was a nightmare. But
Ruben, how long was the project?
was that?
How long was your project?
It was 9 months from when I bought it to when I moved in, and then it was another 6 to 9 months to finish kind of the other odds and ends. And after I moved in, I had can light installs, some finishing stuff around the bathrooms and shelf installs, the driveway, the irrigation, all the landscaping, all that stuff that I did while I was there. Yeah.
What was your projected ARV initially when you bought it?
Okay, yeah, so initially, my projected ARV, I bought it at like 180, I had a 50 grand, like $49,000 for my remodel cost, so it was putting me like at 230-ish, and I was expecting an ARV in like the 270 range, so I was hoping for like 40 grand margin, something like that, knowing that, okay, it's probably gonna grow in my remodel cost some. I wasn't expecting 100 grand to grow, but I also changed what my plan was as I was going through the process. But that was that first place I tried to get that budget, they were giving me an ARV estimate back of like 270 something. And so it was literally, you know, the way they work, usually they'll give you 80% loan of your ARV value for those fix and flips. And it put me just under what I needed to get my 49 for my remodel costs that I thought I needed at the time. And so that's what prompted me to keep looking to find lending. And you know, the banks, lots of banks do this. The local bank, they made me move my money over, put my direct deposits to their bank because they want your business, right? They want to have the money to go and loan out and make money off of. And so my wife and I, we use a different bank, but I've kept that account open, and that president's still there. And so hopefully can utilize him again if I wanted to find financing again on a different job. So yeah, you never know what relationships you might build through that stuff. So
I got it right.
all right, sounds good. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate it.
Everybody, this is
No problem.
Bobby, he's a mortgage broker, so if y'all are interested in
Thank
that, you might get with him.
Yeah, holler at me if y'all need anything, if you have any questions about anything.
Bobby, was your name, did you sign that sheet?
Yeah, he's on.
I did,
Okay.
yeah. Here, tell you what, I hand out, handful of my cards. Anybody have any questions, give me my card. I'm always here, I'll be here anytime. Give me a call, pleasure, thank you.
Go ahead, Sam.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. You got any more questions? Happy to kind of talk through whatever. but-
Where did you start this?
What year did I start it? I bought it in June of 2018 and moved in March of 2019. And then, yeah, by kind of fall of 2019, most of the heavy lifting was done.
And when did you get married?
I got married July. I got engaged at Thanksgiving of 2019. I got married July of 2020. Yeah, I went on my first date. She lived in Dallas with my wife. Like 3 weeks after I bought the house, and I was like, I was literally planning on spending every weekend for the next year just grinding. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be driving back and forth to Dallas, but I did, and it worked out. So I'm glad I did. Yeah.
You got any other projects now?
Right now, just that back house, that back space that I'm working on. I'm in grad school right now at UTBB, and I'm working full time, and I'm the head coach for the Midland Classical Academy cross country team. And so I don't have like a whole lot of spare time to work with. but that's just kind of how I do
I like
things.
your shirt.
Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah.
What do you think the added value in the finished in-law suite is gonna be?
I think it will be, I think that the whole property, if it's a net 3,000 square foot, you've got 4 beds and 3 bath, with 2, built out kitchens and all that stuff, I think it appraises around the $500,000 range. There's there was one home, south of the wall, kind of in the museum district that a friend of a friend of mine's owned that had a space like that, and it sold around that range, kind of the same square footage layout, more or less. And so I think I'll be all in, at that point, I think I'll be all in close to the 400 mark, including all the cash out refinances and stuff like that. So maybe one day I will see a profit from it all when I move and sell it. So.
Did you do your cash out like at the end of 2019, or did you have to do it in 2020?
I did one cash out at the end of, or the spring of 2019 when I moved in, and I took it off the balloon loan to a traditional home mortgage. I got 20 grand out to do the driveway and the irrigation, and then I didn't refinance again until just this spring, so it's 2021 when I did the most recent one. Yeah, because in my head I was planning to. I got a personal line of credit. It was going to pay for the back house work with line of credit and then roll it all up into the mortgage. But then it was taking me longer. I was going slower in the back house, and I saw mortgages start to creep. So I went ahead and just calculated my cost, did a cash out at the lower interest rate to have the cash in the bank to pay for the work.
Was it Fannie and Freddie on the last refi, or did they keep it in house?
I believe they sold it back off because I have. I've got a lot of, the note is low compared to the home value because I did a lot of I paid out of pocket for a lot of the rental costs too.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, I think that just on the regular mortgage market, that balloon loan they kept in house, that was part of the condition of trying to find somebody who would fund it, was I had to find a local person who could go by and look at it, who would keep the loan on their books. But once it could be treated as a homestead, they've sold all my mortgages off, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Who did that balloon loan and what were the terms on it?
Who did the balloon loan? It was AIM Bank, which I think now is like Prime West Texas First or something like that. They're on Wall. Their main building is on Wall, just a couple of blocks west of downtown. They repainted. It's a green and gray building now. And yeah, I'll be honest. When I met with the president, I could not tell if it seemed like, almost like, are you paying attention? Hey, right, what do you, right here, he just seemed very like aloof and not paying attention. And so I couldn't tell, like, is this so routine for you that like, it's not taking much of your brain power, or like, are you about to like hustle me? And so I was a little bit worried, and it wasn't until, kind of through the process and stuff that, I would for sure use him again. He was great. But I also look back and I provided him literally just a text outline in an email of my schedule for the work. This week I'm going to do these things, this week these things, this week these things. I had an Excel spreadsheet for my scope of work and my costs. But it was pretty thin. And, so that also makes me think, it was pennies on his books, I'm sure. So, but yeah, I've had a good experience with local people.
Which bank was that?
I think they changed their name. I think it's West Texas First or something. I can probably look it up here in a minute and let you know. You used formerly AIM Bank. They have a handful of branches here, kind of in the West Texas, Central Texas area. So, but yeah.
Any trends or insight in the market that you can share with us?
Right now, I don't know. I mean, I'm not watching it as closely as I was when I bought the house. I feel like now is a time to be really mindful of what bracket of housing you're looking at as far as price and target, because oil's kind of back up, but as much as we try, Midland's still, like, I don't think Midland's gonna ever disappear, but I think Midland will grow and slow based on the oil. And I think where you're gonna feel that is in the top half of the housing market. We had one of the highest growth, we had 36% population growth in the last decade, something like that, which is pretty much through the roof for places out here. But you need apartments, you need economy, basic, entry level rentals. I think that stuff is going to be strong for a long time to come. But I would weigh with caution into the higher dollar fix and flip world. Probably not start off, even though I thought about doing it because I'm an idiot. I don't know. So, take it with a grain of salt. But
That was really good. I love your project, that was excellent.
Thank you.
Bobby, that just left, like I said, he's a mortgage broker, so if y'all are interested, he left some of his cards there. Raymond's gonna give us the real estate market report for Midland, Odessa, and Angel, he'd be able to tell you more about what the market's doing. He's with Keller Williams, and
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out. I've got just the numbers for this month and just for overall what we got going on in the market. In Midland, we've got 1,800 total listings, 1,400 that are actually active. There's 400 that are under contract. Last month we sold 247 houses, and this is all residential, so we've got about 6 months supply, which puts us at a really balanced market. And as far as list to sell prices, we're seeing about 97%. So there is some negotiations and there's deals to be had. You're just gonna have to look for them. Average sale price of about $341,000 here in Midland. And the Odessa numbers are a little bit different. We've got about 1,400 total listings, 981 that are actually active, 400 under contract, and only 145 that sold last month. So there are about 7 months supply in Odessa, and that's a little bit more buyer side. So 56 average days on market, and we've got a sale price of $238,000 in Odessa.
Odessa's just a better market.
Huh?
Odessa just looks like it's a better market right now.
You think so? What makes you think that?
Because you said we have more listings in Midland, right?
Yeah, we've got more listings, but we have more houses sold as well.
But how many are under contract?
Where?
In Odessa.
In Odessa, we've got 357.
And in Midland?
We've got 477.
So it's pretty close.
Yeah, they're pretty close. And we've got 45 days on market in Midland and about 56 in Odessa. So they're real comfortable.
Because under contract projects your future.
Yeah, exactly.
So it looks like the future is better in Odessa.
Especially when Nacero comes in, that gas plant,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, probably.
Possibly. I'm here with Keller Williams guys. We're always looking for new realtors, and it's a really good place to be. If you have any questions regarding real estate, just the market, I like to stay in Midland and just be just your local expert in the Midland market, but I do travel to other places around here. So if there's anything I can help you out with, feel free to reach out.
if you haven't signed in yet, there's a sign-in sheet here. It just keeps us appraised who's here, kind of planning. Is anybody here 21? Okay, all right. He and I have been texting back and forth, and so I was seeing if he showed up and what he looked like, so that's great. All the information you heard tonight, none of it's legal, accounting, professional, or anything. It's all just for your entertainment, so don't go to Zack and sue him because you heard something. Cynthia Watson is in our group, and she has a lot of contractors that she works with. What do? You doing fix and flips?
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Monk. I think we talked. You got my postcard, I think. You called
Oh,
me.
okay. Yeah, okay.
You got a postcard from me as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you.
Yeah, he's been in it for about a year and a half.
Yeah. I mean, I got my first investment property in May last year,
Okay,
but I started out in January. It took me 5 months to get some.
right. 5 months, buddy, but he didn't give up. He kept at it. So I tell people this is not a get rich quick scheme, but it's worth it. So if you just stay at it long enough, if you don't like it, then go to something that you do like. I like what I do, so it's fun. You know, the reason I come to these things is because I always learn something. Like the bedroom thing, that was a rule. You had to have a closet in it. I just learned tonight that the rule's been changed. So Steve, he's still under the old rules. He's like I am. So I'm gonna let him know that the office we made in the fix and flip, the Rio fix and flip, it's a bedroom also, because it doesn't have a closet, but it has two entries or two
Has two
escapes.
regresses and it has to be heated.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Do you know anything about getting your properties as a rebuild,
A little bit.
new build?
What are you asking?
Zach, one of the other members, 4 or 5 years ago, we went on the tour of homes, and she had redone her house, and on the city records, it's as a new build. And so if you do enough stuff on the inside, so you might go to see them, because it may be beneficial when you do go to sell sometime, that it's listed as a new build from 2002 or 2021.
Yeah.
I have not learned how to do that, but the lady that did it, she's the next street over from me, and I'm gonna go see her, because we're thinking about doing that for the house that we're gonna
I'll
flip.
be interested to hear, but I've
Yeah.
heard about that before. I haven't, I'll probably, since I'll be there a couple of years, I'll probably end up replacing the roof pretty soon too. And so, all the major systems will have been
Right.
replaced. I think that's worth looking into.
Text me in about a month, because I
Okay.
should know by the end of this week, but I'll
Okay.
probably forget that I told you, I'll tell you, so text me, I'll tell you how I did it.
Okay.
Mo, did you actually get one of yours done like that, or?
No, but I'm in the process of.
Okay,
Yeah, so I don't really know a lot about it. I'm actually in the middle of doing it right now.
Okay.
So, he said he has a little bit of background on it?
no.
Lee knows somebody that does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lady that lives, she's part of the group, but she never comes anymore. But she did a complete rehab, and this was about 3 years ago. We have a tour of homes once a year, and last year, we've been doing it in July, and last year we were over at Cynthia's place, her RV park. It was hot, and I thought, you know, we could do this in the fall and it'd be a lot cooler. So this year is gonna be in October. So we may need a jacket, but I'd rather have a jacket than sweat, and we were sweating out there. So what I do is the month before we have the tour of homes, I'll call up all the contractors and see who's in. Mo may be on one. If he's got a project going, you know, we might go look at his, or, so some will be completely started. One we did, it was a burned out thing, and all we saw while we were standing there was the 4 walls. And that was Jacoby's, and Jacoby ended up tearing down the 4 walls. He thought he could save the walls, but he couldn't even save that, so. But it's interesting, because some will be completed. We've seen one of his that was completed, and it's just different stages of rehab, so y'all can kind of get numbers and kind of figure out what their thinking was and how they did it.
Oh, Lee, I forgot to mention too, I have a YouTube channel called Carl Remodeling, and I'm doing videos as I do the back house, so.
Like a DIY thing?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
so, Carl's Remodeling,
K or C?
CARL. So, partially, I also have some video background, so I used to do some of that, but, I took a ton of pictures on the house that I did, but I still feel like I go back to work on something, I'm like, I don't have a picture of this wall when it's open, or I don't have a picture of whatever. And so, my thought was this will help me even more remember the process and all the things done with the building.
And you should always, whether you do rental properties or you do fix and flips all the time, you should always have one book that's made up of a fix and flip, or what you bought the property as and then what it went to. And then if you have a worser one, create a new book and get rid of the old book. But always have your worst property that you started with and what it looked like. Mine, I've got it in my briefcase now. It's a mobile home, and I've had it probably about 6 years. But I may replace it with the one we're doing now because the hoarder house was a lot worse than this mobile home was. But the mobile home was blank land when we started, so I don't know, I might have 2 books after this. But you should have 1 book just so you can show other investors and other people that you want to buy their house or want to sell them a house or something, what you do and what your quality is and stuff. We used to, before COVID happened, we used to do 1 month here in Midland, 1 month in Odessa, back and forth. And we're going to start that again. Next month, we'll be in Odessa, look at the meetup site for the address. It's Jason's Deli in there. They have a back room that's real nice. Usually there's more people that show up at that meeting. I don't know, Odessa's, I guess they don't want to come over here or something. But, or maybe there's just more people in Odessa that go when it's in Odessa. But we've got 2 months in a row, and so I'll either need to do 2 months with Odessa and then come back here for the RIA or for the tour of homes, or we'll do 2 months in a row for Midland. But after October, we'll be doing every other month again. And the reason that we always do Midland in December is because December is always just a sit down and eat thing, and I can coordinate it better because I live here in Midland, so I can coordinate the restaurant better if it's here. So, but yes, did you have? Oh, okay. Get to know each other, and if I haven't met you at all, you might come up and shake my hand. And there's some faces look kind of familiar, but not. So I hope to meet all you eventually.
Thank you.